Unparalleled realism. Looks real, feels real, it smells real?
What am I meant to be smelling, exactly?
The original Gran Turismo came out in 1998 after 5 years of development and received critical acclaim from critics, race enthusiasts, gamers, and myself for revolutionizing the simulation racing genre. It even went on to become the best-selling game on the PlayStation. The development team was convinced how big the Gran Turismo name can get and decided to work on a sequel that would have more of it. I recommend watching the review of the first game before watching this. Now, normally having more of a predecessor smells laziness, especially with games today. Take the sports genre or Call of Duty for example. But with this, Polyphony put a huge amount of content. So much in fact there's more than one disc just for 2 different modes, and the amount of space it takes to create a save file is bonkers. Thank God I played this on the PlayStation 3 where I can make as many memory cards as I want. Because Polyphony rushed development for the holiday season, there are a few glitches. Some versions of the game are impossible to reach 100%, and some of them can go over that. I think this has to do with the idea of drag cars being scrapped and forgot to rectify the percentage. It's not that big of a deal, none of these things affect the gameplay. They've increased the number of tracks from 11 to 28. It has all the tracks from the first game like Special Stage Route 5, Grand Valley Speedway and Trial Mountain to name a few. Except for Special Stage Route 11. I don't know why. But they'd made up for it by introducing new ones including Seattle Circuit, Apricot Hill Raceway, Midfield Raceway, Super Speedway, Tahiti Island, Red Rock Valley, and Laguna Seca. It's not much of a surprise that there are more tracks, but the introduction of rally and real life circuits was a really huge step up for the franchise. Once again, I like the fact that the fictional tracks are designed using proper racing lines including chicanes, high speed corners and long straights, and adding the fantasy-like feel to some of the tracks like racing on highways at night and on the roads of Tahiti with your race-modified BMW 328 Ci. They really amped up the number of European and American cars by increasing the showroom from 178 to 600. 600 cars in a PlayStation 1 game, that's insane! Because there are so many cars worth at least 500,000 credits going all the way to 2 million, I've seen lots of different fastest car in the game cars, you know what I mean? Once you're able to earn serious credits in Gran Turismo mode, car dealers turn more into a mad mechanical scientist experimental minefield to tune the fastest car possible. The Suzuki Escato Pikes Peak rally car, the Toyota GT1 road car, the Nissan 180SX HKS drag car, or anything that can be tuned to go over 400 km an hour. I don't have a favourite, but the car I've used the most to get settled into Gran Turismo 2 would be the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra in Ford Blue. Just reduce the weight, add some racing brakes and suspension, good to go. I'm sure other players would have had it better going through the game, but I've been able to complete a majority of the events my way. Nobody can deny that this game pushed the PlayStation's limits in 1999, and knowing this, it makes you admire the way the game looks. Both the cars and circuits have excellent attention to detail. The shadowing of the surroundings, go under a tree and the car goes darker, and the reflection of the sun beaming over the car, you can see it. I also noticed that the advertising around a circuit changes when you come back to it for another race. I don't know why and how, but it hit me when I did the Sunday Cup on Tahiti road course on the first and second time. I know all these things should be standard in a video game today, but this was 1999. Maybe the cars are overglossed, but hey, that looks like a Honda NSX to you, doesn't it? It still looks like a PlayStation 1 game, but it just looks a little bit... Well, look at the two games. If you really pay attention, it does look sharper. The graphics only needed a few minor tweaks. But why oh why did they not do anything about the rubber banding? Look at this. Daihatsus and Mazda Viennas are keeping up with a 290 horsepower Toyota Supra. I passed them immediately at the start line, and they somehow stay on my tail the whole race. It's meant to keep players on their toes, but the reality is that it's there to piss you off for the amount of effort you're putting into your driving. Despite this, it's actually harder than the first. The AI is much more aggressive. So aggressive, in fact, the opponents always run off the track or into walls just to try and overtake me. The driving mechanics are very similar to the first game. The steering takes time as you oversteer or understeer easily no matter what car you drive. Just remember that it's a simulation racer. The addition of rally stages was a really good idea. You slide out a bit more and it's up to you to decide whether to use it to your advantage or not. It will take more practice than on the tarmac. I recommend the PlayStation 3 driving controls, using the triggers for acceleration and braking. It makes driving such a joy. So they haven't done anything necessarily new to the driving controls, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This game is so big it has 2 discs for different modes. Arcade mode is the same as the first with its game modes including single race, time trial and 2-player. This time the gameplay isn't different on arcade mode compared to Gran Turismo mode like the predecessor. Gone are the extra humps and increased game speed, which means casual gamers are pretty likely to be turned off by the gameplay as a result. But outside of gaming, I'm an automotive fan too, so I still enjoy arcade mode. What's also good is being able to use your garage from Gran Turismo mode. I don't really see the difference between racing and drift tires. You can unlock cars by winning single races on a higher difficulty, but it's not going to matter that much if you have only 4 tracks to start with unless you complete license tests in Gran Turismo mode. Now I do like that the game encourages you to try the most important aspect of the game, but what if a younger audience was getting into this game and all they wanted to do is pick a car, track and go, but only had little to choose from? I was a teenager by the time I could comprehend how Gran Turismo mode works. This is another thing that can turn off casual gamers. The reality is you have to play GT mode to get the most out of this game. Jeez, how many times have I said the word mode? I think we all get the idea. This blows. I'm surprised this kind of license test hasn't produced any internet memes yet. But strangely, this isn't the biggest problem. Watch this. The hell? It starts just like that? Talk about a beginner's trap. The license tests have their own tracks this time, which is pretty unique. But why are there stands added? Why would anyone turn up to see someone perform a license test unless they're really supportive of me becoming the best driver in the world? What I find disappointing is that there are more licenses to obtain and more tests to do. Seriously? As you can see, I've obtained a few licenses and there are a few more tracks on arcade mode as a result. Once it's finally out of the way, you have to buy a first car. Pick wisely. Having so much choice certainly adds to the replayability. The menu continues to go for a generic look. The thing is, what kind of city divides all the car manufacturers into different areas of the city by country? I know, it makes it easier to navigate and compass direction names make more sense than Japan City, USA City, Italy France City or UK Germany City. The number of events has unsurprisingly increased. You get races based on drivetrain, body type, nationality, year, endurance and surface type. You can even find manufacturer-based races at the car dealers. The variety is almost limitless. However, I found that the only rule these races have is power. So basically, as long as a car is under the power limit, you can race 5-door wagons with an Aston Martin DB7. As you win races, you earn credits and prize cars. You'll need to race in a similar event more than once to get a particular upgrade or buy a new car in the first couple of hours of gameplay. Because most of the events are broken down into single races, it's going to take longer than you'd expect. I, however, look at it as simply more gameplay time. It wasn't until I found out that you can get the same car if you win an event more than once. So that means that there are some events where you can win a race for 550,000 credits. Optional features include buying aftermarket rims for your cars and performing machine tests. This is what I allude to when I call the hypertune cars scientist experiments. This was the first Gran Turismo game that got me interested in tuning specifications. You'll need experience at all these things in order to stand a chance in the Gran Turismo World Championship. Aside from more race events and cars to choose from, Gran Turismo mode is identical to the first game. The difficulty is much higher though, the drivers are faster, and having power limits forces you to be strategic when tuning a car. Sometimes it all comes down to luck, no thanks to the stupid rubber banding. Everything else is a lot of fun though. The fact is, there's so much more content than its predecessor overall. The number of tracks, cars, and events have multiplied, and it also took us to the gravel. Anyone would favor this over the first game, and in the end, that's why I give it a 9.5 out of 10. This is certainly one of the best games on the PlayStation and the racing genre. You'd have to be blind not to have this in your collection. Because of its high sales, it's really cheap for what you get. You'll certainly be spending hours on this game if you're patient enough to do the license test and start off with a 1991 Toyota Supra. But that's how a racing career works. You start at the bottom and work your way to the top. And this game certainly reaches very, very close to the top.